Avatar: The Last Airbender Live Action. Let's talk about it. And I just want to say disclaimer, like, obviously I'm gonna say it. I'm biased, and I don't think anybody that's been watching Avatar is unbiased, considering we all have like preconceptions of the original series and also high expectations and yada yada yada. With that being said, I tried my best to kind of think about this without the preconception of the original series. Just think about all the people that will like go on to Netflix, see Avatar live action, watch it, and be like, oh my god, this is so sick, and then be introduced into the animated series. Like, it wasn't like, literally when the Avatar Last Airbender like came onto Netflix, it went through this like huge explosion, and so like I feel like this will just kind of be a place where new fans can come in, and I love new fans. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And yeah, we'll be going through some categories here. So first, I'm gonna give you guys my general rating, and then we're gonna go through visuals, casting, writing, and then the plot, and then I'll talk about any other expectations and my other thoughts on the show. Let's do this thing. Okay, for my general rating, trying to be unbiased and obviously failing a little bit, is a 7.5 out of 10. And I think without preconception of the original series, it could have been an 8 or 9, to be honest. If you think about like other series on Netflix and like what live action things look like if you also compare it to One Piece and all that stuff. Okay, first, visuals. The visuals were honestly, I think, amazing. I think they kind of went above and beyond for a lot of things. Like, the bending looked insane. The environments looked insane. They did an amazing job kind of expanding on what the animated series first kind of already had. So, like, if you look at the South Pole within the animated series, it's, like, so tiny. And I think that the live action did a good job at expanding what a community would look like after going through war and, like, losing, like, all their mentors and everything, but still making it very real. Obviously, the South Pole is not going to be as big as the North Pole, but I don't think there had to be that disparity in size since, one, the audience is, like, a lot more grown up now, and even like new people watching this will probably like, it's not a cartoon anymore. So yeah, I think some changes like visually made a lot of sense, and I think that they did a great job. And I also think that their visual effects were just amazing in general. And yeah, I think for general rating, I give the visuals an 8 out of 10 because where it fails, it is kind of like funny. Like, some of the scenes, especially the first scene where Sokka and Katara are like going through the water, and then they hit like a current, and then it like zooms in on their face. You can just tell like the visual effects on those close-ups of their faces are just kind of like, they feel a little silly, but it's like not horrible. Like, it's not silly to the extent where it's like, oh, this sucks, you know? It's just kind of like, oh, like, that might have been awkward for them to kind of get that shot or something, you know? But yeah, visually amazing. I think, yes, on top of, like, visual, like, effects, we're gonna also talk about the costumes, character design, all that stuff. Whoever was behind all that, honestly, A+, million, billion, plus, they put a lot of thought and effort into, like, every single character's costume and their makeup and like, pretty much, like, everything. Like, I think they did a great job. Like, if you, like, even just Aang's tattoo, like, even though it's very much goes back to the original series, just like the blued out tattoo, they have like patterns within them, which I thought was pretty cool. And I also think it's slightly a callback to the Horrible movie. Honestly, like, I like the little patterns and stuff. I think it makes it feel a little more like cool. I don't know, more, what is the word? I don't know the word. Cool. And there's also like the additional parts for the Water Tribe costumes, because if you look at like the original like character designs for these within the animated series, like, a lot of the costumes have to be kind of dumbed down in the sense like the artists have to get rid of a lot of the busy work just for it to be animated a lot easier and kind of like streamline the animation process. Whereas like here, like, designers can kind of like read in more into the culture and into like how a person would live within their clothing, and it's just like honestly awesome. I loved it. I freaking deaking loved it. It was great. One thing that bothered me about costumes, hair, makeup, was Yue's wig. And the wig was very much spot on to the original. Don't get me wrong, like, they did a great job with that. But just the way that it fit on the actress's head was just like, you know, it looked like it could like tip off, fall off. Like, it didn't look like it was really a part of her hair. And I think, you know, it wasn't something that I was like looking at the entire time where I was like, oh, this is bothering me. Like, I hate this. It was more like a first impression type of thing. And then I was like, oh, it's fine. It's whatever. Like, I'm over it. I was over it within like 30 seconds. So it wasn't too big of an issue. So yeah, gave the visuals 8 out of 10. Great. We're going to go on to the casting. Casting for this, I think they also did really great. I think they did a really great job as far as like looking at people that not only looked like the characters, but also had similar backgrounds. Also kind of like, I think this is a topic that a lot of people talk about. And I think part of it is also the writing. Okay. A big part is that a lot of the cast members, the casting, like they casted very young actors, which makes sense. Like these are young people playing young people, which I think is great. Another thing is that some of these young actors are also very new into acting or like new into the industry in general, or like they've had a few gigs here and there, right? And I will say that sometimes the acting was not top tier compared to like, you know, some actors. And I don't think like it affected me too much, to be honest, as far as like watching it. Like I had a great time watching it, and it's like something that you could kind of tell. It didn't take away how much I enjoyed watching this show. Like I think it was more of the writing that took away from the show than the actors not being the best actors in the world. But yeah, I think the casting was great. I give it 8 out of 10. I think the only thing that would make it better would have been if all the actors were like 10 out of 10 actors. And I think that's hard to ask for, especially with a really young cast and trying to create a world that feels very real to the world of Avatar, just because like, you know, I think only now today Asian people are really being recognized within the sphere of acting in general. And, you know, this show I think is taking that big leap of being like, we're going to give you these voices, and these people are going to grow into the roles. They're going to grow into becoming better actors and everything like that. And I think I like that. And I don't think that like they're not being the best actors takes away from my enjoyment at all. Okay, but this is the part where I'm gonna dig into it, because check how long this this is all one category. Okay, casting, 8 out of 10. I had no issues with that. Okay, writing. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. I have to like look at this because I need to make sure that I'm not missing anything that I want to talk about. The number one thing that bothered me about this show was part of the writing and the dialogue behind the characters, because there are parts in the show where I was like watching it and I was just like, yo, this character would never say that, or this doesn't make sense for this person to say these set of lines in this context. Like, it doesn't make sense. And, okay, I think the first example is Gran in the first episode, where Gran goes on to explain to Aang that he's the last airbender. And, like, I understand. It makes sense she's the person to tell Aang. I think that makes 100% sense. And it also makes sense for her to do the original intro, especially if that's a story passed down through her tribe, because that's also the same intro that Katara tells in the original. It like builds like this backstory of like, oh, like it could have been a story told through her tribe, and that's why Katara does the original intro, right? Like that makes sense. It makes sense that she would do that, right? But my issue is Gran literally told Aang he was the last airbender, that all his people were killed in genocide, and let him run away to go cry by himself, all while in the context of the entire village watching them. And she did it very clinically. There was not a point where she was doting on him as far as him being like literally a 12-year-old kid. And it just bothered me a lot because it made me not like Gran. And I know I like Gran. Like, she's the girl, right? Like, she's like, oh, go help him save the world. Like, that's who she is. But that's not what they made her out to be here. And it made me, that made me a little disappointed. Because, yes, she's the matriarch of the tribe. Like, I understand that. Yes, people are going to gather around her because she's grand. But no, she's not going to tell Aang that all in front of everybody and let him go cry by himself. And then have Katara go out there to go comfort him. No, she would have, like, I feel like that scene should have been a closed scene. Her, Katara, and plus Sokka, maybe. And she would have told him, and then she would have been like, I'm so sorry, hugged him, and then given him space or something. I don't think that it would have happened like that. It just, it made me, like, feel like Gran was, like, spiteful towards him. And maybe that's what it was supposed to happen, but I don't think Gran would be like that. Like, I don't know, it bothered me. I don't know if it bothered other people. I don't know, like, if the intent of the writers was to make me feel bothered, because maybe Gran is just, like, also just so worn down by this 100-year war, and she's tired of it, you know? Like, I don't know. I hope that she wouldn't be the type of person to take out her anger on a little 12-year-old boy. Okay, anyways, that one got me heated. So in the second episode, the other thing that bothered me about the characterizations of characters is Aang had so many speeches in this, and a lot of them make sense. Like, I think his monologue with Appa in the beginning made sense. I saw people talking about how, like, oh, like, now he's just talking to Appa. Like, no, it makes sense. Like, Appa's literally, like, his best friend, you know? Anyways, besides that, I had a problem with his speech to the mayor of Kyoshi, and only because it's like, I understand Aang is supposed to be a people's person. He's supposed to be a great people's person. He's supposed to be great at talking to people and unifying people. I understand that. I don't think it needs an 8-minute long speech about helping each other. I don't think that he needed to have such a long dialogue when talking to the mayor of Kyoshi. One, because like Aang doesn't have speeches like locked and loaded like that, like ready to go. I don't think any 12-year-old kid would. And I just think that his monologue there was just super long. I think it could have been cut short in half and the story would have gone on just as normal. Freak. I apologize if there's like any funky noises because I'm just... Okay, anyways. Yes, no, I don't think a 12-year-old would have speeches locked and loaded like that. And I think that if they cut his speech in half, it would have had the same effect on the entire show. Or the plot line of where we were at. Like, I don't think it had to be that long. That bothered me. And there are other parts of the show where I think they give him, like, certain lines that I don't think make sense. It seems like sometimes within the dialogue, like, he'll have, like, a part where he's supposed to be, like, speaking up and inspiring people, right? I understand that. You want him to be inspiring people. He's the Avatar, right? But I think the way they wrote it in, it was not the cheese, y'all. It was not flowing. It wasn't right. Yeah. I'm a slow down on the hating train right now. There are some things about the writing that I actually like freaking loved too. Okay, those are the things that I pointed out that I didn't like. I'm gonna point out some things that I freaking deaking loved, okay? I loved the delving out of Zuko's character with his crew and how it kind of intermingled with his banishment. Like, I think, you know, they're really showing you in the first season that Zuko's not all that bad. And I think as a Netflix series, you need to show this in the first season if you're going to hook people. You need some more, like, of his character in this. And they had less episodes to do it. So it makes sense that they kind of, you know, had this play out. And I honestly really freaking enjoyed it. I love Dallas's Zuko because he kind of has another take on Zuko than Dante Bosco's, but they're like different but the same. Like, they have, you know, those memes of like Zuko being sassy and all that stuff? Like, literally that part in the show where he's like, so someone saw ice in a place where ice wouldn't exist. Like, that was, he delivered that. Literally, he ate with that. Yeah. I love his character. I love Zuko. I think he's doing a great job playing him. And also, like, his athleticism. I don't know, like, for y'all watching the animated series, obviously it's like, oh my god, it's so cool, rah, rah, rah. He's doing that in real life. They all are. And he's throwing all these kicks, like, like, go you. And I know, like, some people are going to get online and, like, talk about, like, oh, the live action's so bad, rah, rah, rah. No, y'all got talent, because I could never. And I don't think any of those people hating could ever either. So, yes. Besides Zuko, this is something that I also really, really, really wanted to talk about. I did my best to kind of stay offline before the show was being released because I didn't want to be spoiled on some of the changes, and I didn't want to have, like, expectations. Like, I wanted to go into the show being like, am I going to enjoy this? I just wanted to see if I would enjoy it, right? And right before the show released, people were talking about, like, oh, Sokka's character is not going to be sexist. Like, his character arc is going to be so freaking trash. And honestly, I loved Sokka's character in this, too. And I think they did Sokka's character great. He brought the sarcasm still. He brought, like, that side of the character very well. And also, people were talking about, like, oh, he's not sexist, rah, rah, rah. He still is low-key sexist in the show. It's just kind of presented in a very different way. And I think that's because, like, it's not sexist in the way of, like, oh, like, girls can't do things boys can. Because I think that the animated series did that, and it made sense because of when the show came out in, like, 2004, 5? Whenever. And that was, like, a time where, when I grew up as a girl, I am a girl, by the way. When I grew up, it was very much, like, a lot of the media that we were seeing was, like, girls can do the things that guys can. And it made sense for his character to be sexist and kind of go through the arc where he's not sexist. I think it made sense for the audience and the time and everything. And it makes sense that now he's not sexist in the sense that it's not just a girls versus boys. Like, his sexism, him being a sexist kind of, what is the freaking word? Oh, got it. It's just manifested very differently in the sense that, this kid was handed the power of patriarchy when he was freaking 13 years old and was expected to protect his whole village at the young age of 13. And he has his sister to take care of, who is the last waterbender of their tribe. Of course he's going to tell her not to freaking bend. Of course he's going to be like, I'm going to protect you. I'm the man of the tribe. I'm going to do this, 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 and that while you need to go lie low. Of course he's going to do that. And I think that's still, like, sexist in a sense, but it's presented in a much more, I think, deeper, delved out way. And in the sense of, like, how does a kid act in the midst of war and giving this huge responsibility to take care of his sister and his grandma and his whole entire village? How do you do that? And he's still living in the world of patriarchy anyways. So it's like, I think they did a great job with his character. And I think they did a great job of writing into the script of how him and Katara fight about these things. I think that was great. I loved seeing them being siblings and, like, get into arguments about deep things that are kind of serious because they're in a war. It was great. I honestly loved it. Okay, y'all. That was the writing. I just rated a 5 out of 10. I think it's just because the writing is where a lot of where it's like, I'm watching the show and I'm like, that ain't right. And that takes away where I'm like, oh, I'm having so much fun watching this, Now, onto the plot time. I give the plot a 6 out of 10. I think it's better than how mad the writing made me at some points, and I think it's a fair rating for the changes that they had to make and all that. Okay. Let's talk why 6 out of 10. I will say that I am disappointed with some of the changes, but all the changes make sense. I can see why they took all the events with Sai and Jet take place in Omashu. I can see why they had to change part of the story in order to fit the timeline with the aging of the in real life actors. I understand that. I think it makes sense, and I think they did a great job needing to change with the changes in the story. My brain just farted. Okay. I think they did a great job changing the parts that they had to change to still fit the overarching plot and to shove in as much of the original show as possible. I think they did a great job. I think they did what they could do with 8 episodes that were all about 40 to an hour long. I think they did as much as they could. And I think that whoever did the writing for needing to change all this and condense it into 8 episodes, that team, y'all need a little applause, and y'all need to rest assured and feel like you guys actually did a good job, because you did, based on all the restraints that you were given. Because like, I think a lot of the criticisms for the show come from the space of like fans wanting to see it step by step replicated for everything. And I don't think that was possible here. I think they did a great job doing what they could, and does that mean that, the changes are like good or that all of them are bad? I think it's more like the changes even themselves out, because it's like, on one hand, you do miss out on some of parts of the character developments and parts of things that fans were expecting to see. And on the other hand, it's like, bro, you still got all this done in 8 episodes. And y'all did that, right? Okay. Anyways, to go off, I'm going to go over some things that I did not like that they added or they took away from the plot. And then I'll go over the things that I really liked. First off, I did not enjoy watching the Fire Lord incinerate people like right in his chambers. I don't think that they had to do that. Yeah, that's the only thing I think that I didn't really need to see, that I think they just put in there to put it in there. Because that scene where, like Azula does her thing, she tricks these people into coming to the palace, and then the Fire Lord is like, rah, 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 and then he incinerates them. I don't think we had to see that to know that he was a bad person, or to know that Azula is cunning. I don't think we had to see that. Like, she could have done all that, and then he could have told them to banished. And even if he incinerated them, I don't think they had to show us them being incinerated. Like, I think he could have just been like, rah, and then the scene could have cut. Because we don't need to know that he's a bad person. We already know that. Well, even if you're a new viewer, you would know that he's a bad person later on in the series, like a horrible person, when you find out that it was his dad when you find out that Zuko got his scar from his dad. Like, you don't need to know that he's bad here. You already know he's bad. Like, you're gonna go and watch the show and then figure out that he's bad. Or you already are watching the show and you know that he's bad. I don't think they had to show that. I think it was a little much for me. I understand the sense of like wanting to create the darker parts of the show and wanting to show them, like, show more parts of the war that was a little like censored for the kid audience before. I understand that. But I don't think that was necessary. It really wasn't like, we already know he's bad. Let's move on. Despite that being off, I actually liked Azula's side plot of the show. I know it's actually completely new in the live action. Her side plot here is completely new, and I actually really liked it and how they tied it into Zhao and Zuko's conflict, because it makes their conflict make even more sense. Like, it doesn't just make Zhao some power hungry like piece of poo-poo. Like, I mean, he is that, but it also shows you more of like, he's given a little power and then he's like, oh my god, like, I'm in contacts with the princess of the Fire Nation. Like, of course I'm gonna do more bad stuff because she approves of it. And then you get to see more of her relationship play out with Zuko, in the sense like through Zhao, you see that play out. And I think that's great for the coming seasons. I think yes. Me thinks yes. I also like the first scene with the airbenders, just because like that's the first thing that you see, and well, it's not the first thing, but it's one of the first things, and it's kind of like, whoa, like, it's actually crazy. And the bending, we got to see more airbenders, we got to see them bend, we got to see them like be insane, like see how strong airbenders could be. And I don't think we really got to see that in the original, and I really liked it. I also think that as the first scenes, it gives like a good feel for like how dope the rest of the series is going to be as far as like fight scenes and all that stuff. Despite all the changes that they needed to make to fit everything into 8 episodes, bro, the writers, the directors, the producers, y'all, the team, y'all knew what you're doing, because they put so much lore into these 8 episodes that go beyond just Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the show. They put in lore from the novels, they put in lore from the comics, they put in lore from The Legend of Korra. Like, they put their whole Badissi into knowing Avatar. There's nothing more satisfying than like being excited to watch a show and like literally like, we've been like, the live action's been announced for like what? It's been like 4 years since it's been announced. And since then, I think like 3 novels have come out and like a handful of comics have also come out. So it's like, there's nothing more satisfying than being exciting to watch something and then to like consume all this other media and to like know knowledge of like the world and all that stuff, than to see it in there. Like, y'all put y'all references in there. And I'm talking about the Mother of Faces totem. I'm talking about the Fog of Lost Souls. I'm talking about all the Avatar stories. Like, they had Avatar Kyoshi's story in there. They had Avatar Kirk's story in there. Like, obviously Roku's time, his story is going to come. Maybe it'll come later, right? But they knew what they were doing. Ugh. I'm sorry, y'all. It just made me happy. Like, it feels like the creators were like, we see you. We know that you love this show, and we see how much you love it, and we're gonna do what we can for you, okay? Plot. I rated the plot 6 out of 10, y'all. Plot 6 out of 10. Next thing. That's pretty much all my ratings for the categories. Now we're gonna go into some of my expectations and some of my other thoughts on what might be to come, and some things that I might be sad about, worried about, or curious about. So, we all know that Wan Shi Tong was shown in the spirit world. I wasn't expecting to see him, and I don't think I wanted to see him, because I wanted to see him later. It makes sense that they saw him, but I wanted to see him later in the library in season 2. But does the episode of the library make sense in the context of the show now? I don't think it does. I personally think that episode is going to be scrapped, because it doesn't make sense for the plot anymore. Because, one, they've gotten rid of the timeline, so they don't need to find the calendar with the eclipse thing. They don't need that, right? Because they got rid of the sense of having a crunch time, because the actors are going to age through the series. So they can't do it within 6 months. They can't have that timeline anymore. So, in my head, I have a theory that for the next season, instead of going to the library, they're only going to go to the spirit world. Which I think I might really be sad about, because I loved the library. That was, like, so cool. I loved seeing all those. Because Yue is also a fox in this. She was a 3-tailed fox. So I'm like, does that make sense? Like, the foxy, like, knowledge seekers, is that supposed to be a thing? I don't know. I really don't know. They also didn't mention Zhao's exploration of the library at all. They didn't mention that. So he didn't get that information from Wan Shi Tong. No, he did not. He didn't go to the library. No, he did not. Does the library exist? It might not. And, you know, I think that makes me feel a little sad, because I would have loved seeing that library in live action. I would have loved it, and I would have loved seeing Wan Shi Tong fly through it and chase them, and like his neck grow and get him all freaky. Like, I would have loved that. And yeah, that's something that I'm personally quite disappointed in. I have honestly good expectations for season 2. I loved season 1, and loved like an 8 out of 10 type of love. Like, I really enjoyed it. I'm honestly like rewatching it already, just because it's like I really need the time to take those visuals and kind of just chew on the show. But no, I thought it was good. I thought it was good, and I have pretty good expectations for season 2, and I think that people should just kind of just take this show for what the show is, in the sense of like, this is a live action, it's only 8 episodes versus the original show that was animated, 20 episodes long, season 1. 20-something episodes. 20-something? I don't know. It had a lot of episodes, okay? And I think that people just need to watch the show without the expectation that it's going to be a 1-to-1. And they just need to open up their hearts to just having fun. It's a fun show, y'all. Just, if you want to have fun, watch it. If you just want to feel something, you can watch it. It's still a fun watch. I still really enjoyed it. So that is my review on Avatar: The Last Airbender Live Action, as a biased person that really enjoyed watching it. Let me know what you think. You can hate on it in the comments, but just know that I'm very open to hate comments. I'm also open to love comments. And yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.